Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a quick collection overview and review and quick tutorial of the Colourpop spring collection. It's the Sweet Talk collection. It's super beautiful. I feel like this collection did kind of get overshadowed by the Disney Villains collection because they were released in such a short period of time. That being said, I just think this collection is really pretty. I have some good things to say, but some other things to keep in mind. And I also did a quick tutorial on this look here. I will zoom you in so you can see. It's very pretty, very springtime appropriate. I feel like they were very on theme with this collection, and yeah, I think it's beautiful. So if you want to see how I got this look and a review of the collection as I go, then just keep on watching. Okay, so the main product, and I'm pretty sure it's sold out in this collection, is the Pressed Powder Palette. It is so beautiful, so springtime appropriate. When you open it up, this is what it looks like. This retails for $18 US. And honestly, just looking at it, it doesn't really look like anything too special, but the thing that's special about this particular palette are the finishes. And that's where I feel like makeup brands should start to venture into, is playing with different textures, because honestly, we've seen every single color in the book when it comes to eyeshadows and eyeshadow palettes. And that's what we're starting to see a lot of brands do. Tarte just released like that Sea Turtle palette with all the pressed glitters in it. Too Faced had that Pretty Rich palette. You know, Huda Beauty had the new Nude palette, which had tons of new textures. And I really think that that's something that's so interesting, and I feel like brands will have a lot more options. So most of the shades in here are matte. There are two shimmers called Garden Date and Melody. This is Garden Date right here, and this is Melody right here. They're both beautiful peach tones. I'm not going to swatch all the mattes for you because those are just Colourpop standard formula. If you've tried a Colourpop shadow, you know what it's like. But the first interesting finish that's in here is this shade right here called Side to Side, and it is a SUPERSHOCK formula. Usually the SUPERSHOCK formulas are only in the singles. This is the first eyeshadow palette where there is a SUPERSHOCK shadow within it. So this is the shade Side to Side. This is what it looks like right here. It has that traditional SUPERSHOCK formula that feels kind of creamy, and it's not really picking up on camera. It kind of looks just like a light pink, but it has some peachy golden undertones with a couple flecks of golden glitter, so it's super beautiful. And then these two shades are the most interesting in the palette. They are pressed glitters, and I'm pretty sure Colourpop hasn't even released pressed glitters yet, so this is like the first sneak peek of their formula. So this is the first shade here called Prima Drama. And it is it Prima Drama? Yep, Prima Drama. Doesn't really look like much until you swatch it, so I will go ahead and do that. So that's what it looks like there. Side to Side is on top and Prima Drama is on the bottom. You can see it's very reflective, very glittery. Obviously it's pressed glitter. And then the other one is the shade Early Mornin', and that's the shade I have on my inner corners today. That's Early Mornin' on the bottom there, and I'd say that one has quite a bit less chunky glitter particles than the Prima Drama shade. They're both super beautiful though. So just getting into my thoughts on these new finishes within the palette. First of all, I think it's super cool that they included a SUPERSHOCK shadow in their palette. The only thing I'm concerned about is SUPERSHOCK shadows can dry out. Not just SUPERSHOCK shadows, but the SUPERSHOCK highlighters, blushes, anything SUPERSHOCK that kind of has that creamy formula. That's why they're usually in like a twisty container, so you can make it super airtight. So obviously this palette is fairly new and there wouldn't be enough time for it to dry out quite yet, but that is a concern of mine going forward. So that's just kind of something to think about before you purchase this palette. It hasn't happened to me yet. I noticed no formula change, but it could happen. Now going on to the pressed glitters. I think they're okay. And normally I would be so excited and in love with a pressed glitter formula, but after just trying the Tarte palette so recently, I just think that the Tarte had a bit of a better formula. Now that being said, the Tarte palette also was like $50 and this is $18, and the mattes and shimmers are better. So I don't know, it's kind of a trade-off, but the pressed glitters in this palette I find just don't quite adhere to the skin quite like the glitters in the Tarte palette did. I noticed a lot of fallout with these, but I'm gonna have to keep playing with them. I would recommend putting them over a tacky base just to minimize the fallout. They work really nicely over a tacky base, but a lot of the times when I use like a glitter, I'm just pressing it over top of shadow that I've already applied just to add a little extra sparkle. And when I try to do that, I find it's just like kind of Fallout City. But other than that, I think this palette is a great buy. The formula is great on everything, again, except for the pressed glitters. Those are kind of just okay, but everything else is super beautiful, and at $18 you can't go wrong because you can use a coupon. I have a coupon code if you want to use it. I'll list it down below. I don't get any money from it or anything, so if you don't like affiliate codes, it's not really an affiliate code because I earn no commission from it. But yeah, you could use that for $5 off, and then that would bring this down to $13, and really you can't beat that. Next up are the Jelly Much eyeshadows. These are just a jelly eyeshadow. It's kind of a newer formula to the beauty industry. This is the shade that I used today. It's called Photosynthesis. That cracks me up. I love a good pun. It's like a green gold, really beautiful. If you've tried their Jelly Much formula, it's the same formula, just some new colors. This is the shade Close to You. It's a nice light pink with some gold reflect. I do like this one, but I did notice that it was a bit more sheer than the other ones, so just keep that in mind if you have your eye on this one. And the last one I have is Big Ego. This is the one that I'm like really excited for. It's a purple with a blue shift, and that is just so beautiful to me. I think it's really unique, and yeah, I haven't played with this one quite yet though. Next, they came out with blushes in the Super Shock cheek formula. This is the shade Count Me In. It's a nice peach. They're all very peachy in tone, all of these new shades of the Super Shock cheek. And then this one's a little bit brighter. It's called Growth Flirt. Again, love the pun, kind of sounds like growth spurt. This one's much more of a bright peachy pink. And those are just your traditional Super Shock formula. I do like this formula. The best way to apply it, in my personal opinion, is using a damp sponge or your fingers. I don't really like using them with a brush, but yeah. And then finally, they came out with some lipsticks that are all very nude peach. I got 3 of the colors, but I put 2 of them in my kit because I think they'd be really suited to darker skin tones. The first shade I got was THYME, and the other one was You're Thriving. This is the one I used today. This is called Spring Roll. This is my favorite one. I just think it's the most flattering for my skin tone. But the lipsticks that they launched are all kind of a peachy nude luxe lipstick formula, just in a range of different depths, if that makes sense. Okay, now for the look that I did today. The first color I went into in the palette is called Work It. It's like a light mustardy orange neutral shade, and I took that on a big fluffy brush and I used that all over my transition area as a warm mustardy transition shade. Then I went in with a bit of a smaller brush. I used a Sigma Blending E25 and I used the shade Meadow. That's a matte deeper peach shade, and then I just blended and worked that all into the crease. I also took a little bit of that on my outer corner, and then I used a smaller pencil brush. I used a Morphe E18, and I took a mix of the shade Icy Me, or is it ICYMI? Am I supposed to say it as an acronym? I have no idea. If you know, please correct me in the comments. And then I took the darkest shade, which is called Feel Free, and I just kind of used it to really deepen up that outer corner. Then I took a little bit of the Photosynthesis, I love that so much, Jelly Much eyeshadow, and I used that on a Stilazzi Mini Definer S206 brush, and I have found that this is the best brush. It's really small so you can be precise, but it's also very dense and synthetic, so it applies cream products beautifully. Then after I completed my base, which consisted of the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop foundation and the Too Faced Born This Way Multi-Sculpting Concealer, and a little bit of Laura Mercier translucent powder, can't forget about that. After that, I took a little bit of the peach shade Meadow that I used in the crease, and I took that on a Morphe E17 brush and just kind of buffed that into my lower lash line. Then I took a Colourpop cream gel liner in the shade Honeydew. It's just a really pretty nude color, and I just used that on the waterline. Then I added a little bit of mascara. I used the Buxom Big T's Plumping Mascara. And after that, I added some lashes. I used the JC Luxury Lashes in the style Queen Bee. These are a cruelty-free faux mink lash, and they are super beautiful. And then for the face, I used the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer, just in the original shade called Bronzer. For blush, I used the lighter of the two blush shades that I have, the shade Count Me In the SUPERSHOCK Cheek, and I applied that using my Real Techniques sponge. For highlighter, I used the Tarte Exposed Amazonian Clay Highlighter, and I used that on a Real Techniques setting brush. And finally, for lips, I used a little bit of the Colourpop Lippy Pencil in the shade BFF, and then I topped it with the shade Spring Roll from this collection. It is a cream formula of their Luxe lipsticks.
Hey guys, it's Editing Kelsey here, and I totally forgot to mention the last step of my eye look. So I took the glitter gold shade in Early Morning, and I took a little bit of that on my finger, and I just applied that to the inner corners of my eyes. So sorry I forgot to mention that, and yeah, back to our scheduled programming.
So my overall thoughts on the collection is I think it's perfect for spring, super spring appropriate. If I were to pick a couple of products that really stood out to me and I thought were unique, I would choose the palette. It's super pretty. Just keep in mind what I said about the glitter shades. But again, when you factor in the cost, I really don't see it as a huge deal because I feel like you can make them work. I would definitely pick up the Jelly Much shadows because I think these are so much fun. I don't know, I just really like them and I really like the shades that they brought out. If I'm honest, I think you could pass on the SUPERSHOCK cheeks. They are pretty, they are a good formula, don't get me wrong. I don't see them as being super unique. But if you were looking to try these anyways, they are really beautiful. And finally, the lipsticks, again, they're just kind of boring. They were just kind of nude lipsticks. It's nothing that we haven't seen before. So I mean, if you're in the market for like a good peachy nude, they have a bunch of ranges in tones. But other than that, I just don't think that they're anything super exciting, but the formula is so good. And that's everything for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please let me know of any requests you have down below. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you next Tuesday. Bye!